Hello, everyone. Welcome to Molehill Mountain, episode 393. So, the second beta for Monster Hunter Wilds kicked off in my local time Thursday evening. So, finished work, which took a little longer than 5, as is often the case. And then I did the exercise thingy and the showering thingy and the dinner thingy and uh, cleaned up and went to turn on Monster Hunter Wilds beta on the PS5 because I was curious. I'm aware that it's the same code that was last November, but I wanted to see how it ran on the PS5, at least that old code. So I turned it on, did the character creator thing, did the opening cutscene, and after the opening cutscene, but before you go fight the first monster, you're sitting at a tent, and it's like, pick a weapon in case you have a great sword on your back, but just in case you don't want to use that, pick whatever weapon you like. Turn around, and the game completely crashed. And I was like, oh, well, that's a shame. That ain't a good look. PC games you expect to crash, but console games, like complete full crashing, that's fairly rare. So I said, well, it's getting a little on in hours, and I have to work tomorrow. So went to bed, got up the next day, went to work, same basic thing, finished work, exercise, shower, eat dinner, go to play Monster Hunter Wilds, and the beta, of course, and I can't because the PSN is down. Now, you might be thinking, you're a single-player gamer, who cares? Well, at least for the beta, Capcom does. So you can't play the game, even single-player, unless you're connected to the PSN network. And so I looked, and apparently the PSN had been down since 3 that afternoon. And at this point, it was several hours. And all anyone had heard from Sony was, we are aware some users might be currently experiencing issues with PSN. For more details, go to status.playstation.com. So I went to status.playstation.com, and the details were a list of 5 components of the PlayStation Network with red dots next to all of them. So account management, gaming and social, PlayStation Video, PlayStation Store, and PlayStation Direct. Apparently everything was down. Oh no, that sounds serious. So I kept an eye on it throughout the night. Never came back up. Went to bed, got up the next morning, decided to check on it. Still out. And at this point it had been 17 hours, still no word from Sony. And, we hit 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and that's 24 hours network outage, not a peep out of Sony. And it's like, well, that's pretty concerning. Particularly in light of, like 15 years ago, the PSN went down for like 3 weeks. It was a major hack, and like 70 million people's data was stolen. It's like, oh no. This ain't good. But it was only down for 25 hours. Came back up around 4 o'clock my time this afternoon. And PlayStation, the funny thing is several hours before it came back up, PlayStation tweeted out, hey, you should get those M.2 SSD cards. They're really great for console storage capacity. It's like, guys, you realize that PSN is down and people are freaking out, right? The fact that you're not saying anything has people assuming the worst. Like, the fact that you're not telling us what it is kind of implies that it's something you really don't want us to know about, and you are just desperately hoping you can get it right back up real quick and sweep this whole thing under the rug. Well, 25 hours down? No, you can't. But once it came back up a few hours ago, they said, PSN has been restored. You should be able to access online features without any problems now. For more details, status.playstation.com. Sorry for the inconvenience, and that's it. Nothing else. And again, if you go to psn. Or status.playstation.com, it just shows the 5. There are no details here. It's just the 5 aspects of the PSN, with green dots next to them. So yay for that. Really all I wanted to do was I just wanted to play in the character creator and, make Leslie all cool looking. Leslie and Bob, my Hunter and Palico respectively for the Monster Hunter game since World. Um, and I did play with the character creator a bit Thursday night before the PSN went down and before it crashed the first time. And my character concept for Leslie is she's an older hunter. She's been doing this for a while. She's been out in the sun smacking monsters with a stick for a couple decades now. She's my age or maybe a little older, probably pushing into her 50s. So that's also just by the story of Wilds, your character is not a new, fresh-faced hunter. Your hunter is a veteran, someone who is specifically selected for whatever the main issue of the game is. So your hunter is an established hunter, not someone just learning the ropes. It's like, here's a pickaxe, now mine some rocks. So I wanted also, I've been using Leslie and Bob since Worlds Monster Hunter Worlds come out. Monster Hunter World came out in 2000 whatever it came out in. So she's an established person. She's older now. And I found it a little difficult to make a character who looks middle-aged, right? Now, there are ways to change the character's skin texture. But what I found was, you have a slider, right? And on the far left, it's like clear porcelain skin. So you bump it over one notch, and it's still clear porcelain skin. You bump it over another notch, clear porcelain skin. I'm not seeing a difference between any of the notches. You get to the fourth notch and you get like these slight lines around the mouth. I'm like, okay, that's getting there. She should be a little weathered, a little rugged. And then I moved it one more notch and she turned into beef jerky. And I'm like, there's gotta be I think we missed a few steps here. Smooth face of a 20-year-old, slight lines as we move into our later 20s or 30s, and the Crypt Keeper. It's like, I think we could have more of a gradual gradient here. Another thing I thought was funny when I was playing around in the character creator was you can change the eyelash length. And the default eyelash length are these incredibly long, full, luxurious lashes. And I'm thinking, I don't know that any hunter is going to be gluing false lashes on their face before traipsing out into a sandstorm to hit a dragon in the face. I mean, maybe some of them would, but I don't think Leslie would. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to take that slider, which defaults all the way on one side, and start reining those lashes back in. And the funny thing is it's like, okay, long, luxurious lashes, click. Still very long, luxurious lashes, click. Really long, luxurious lashes. And then click, and it's like, no eyelashes whatsoever. She shaves her eyelids. And it's like, guys, she can have eyelashes. It's fine. I've got them myself. So I'm having a bit of a difficulty making her look like she's pushing 50. I'm not too bothered by the fact that we don't have a lot of different body types to play with. You can adjust the physique a little bit. There's two sliders. One is muscle mass and one is muscle definition. And it just muscle mass just really seems to make your ass thicker. I mean, that's it. It's like I mean, your character is weighed down with a lot of armor and is running around a lot, I guess they would be working them glutes. But it's funny. I'm like moving the slider back and forth. I'm like, there's not much different here except her ass is just inflating and deflating. And muscle definition really doesn't do much other than how defined would you like your abdominals, right? You're gonna have a flat tummy anyway. I mean, you don't have like stick figure to, hulking beast of a hunter. And that's fine because we're all wearing the same armor sets. I don't expect that much variety in the actual character physique. All these characters are very, whatever you do with the sliders, you're going to have a pretty lean, lithe, athletic build. Someone who's hauling around 150 pounds of weight and running around. Uh, you're probably going to be pretty damn lean. Exceptionally strong, but probably pretty lean. So I'm not bothered by that. But what I was what I was bothered by is when I when I up the musculature, I want more than glutes. I was thinking like maybe a little bit thicker in the thighs, get some delts and traps, just a little bit more in the shoulders and chest, right? For muscle definition, it's pretty much just abdominals. Um, you get a little bit slight more thigh definition, a little bit more definition in the quads, but you're not really getting much in the arms, and that's to me disappointing. I wanted to add some musculature, and you just don't really have that option. You can make your character's ass a bit thicker, and you can give her some abs, and that's about it. And it's like, well, I mean, that's a shame. She's going to be covered in armor most of the time anyway, so it's not like really that important, but I do think they could have, at least in some cases, particularly with like the eyelash length and what was my other example, the skin texture. I think they could have had a little bit more variation in the gradient from one extreme to the other. Um, so a little bit of a shame there. Still, I got Leslie looking pretty much the way I want her. Uh, the hairstyle that I'd used in World and Rise doesn't seem to be in this game. In that game, she had um, longer hair, but not like long enough to put in a ponytail or anything, and it was pretty much just swept back. It's similar to my own, but longer and thinner with individual strands. My hair's pretty thick, though it is thinning with age. Um, and the hairstyle actually had like a headband. I'm like, I like that. That feels like she's gonna keep her hair fairly short so it doesn't get caught on stuff or get in her face, and she's gonna have a headband to keep her hair and sweat out of her face as she's running around hitting monsters with a stick. That seemed like an appropriate hairstyle for her, but that one doesn't seem to exist. So I have another just kind of looks like she's just same hair, just not wearing a headband and grew it out another 5 inches. It's fine. Leslie's always had kind of silverish hair anyway, so I wasn't really fussing much with like adding extra gray or anything. Her hair's always been silver white-ish. Um, the way I've had her, I also had the scar across the eye and changed the iris color to make it look like she got raked in the face and put out, her left eye. You can still do that. The scar is different from how it's been done in the past. It's actually gives some depth, and you can change it a little bit, but it looks like a really nasty gash that healed. It's like a real big dent in her face. I actually kind of like it. It's pretty good. Um, Bob's fur pattern is a little bit different than it was in the past. They've got 6 major fur patterns, and one is close to the one I had used in past games, but a little bit. It's different. It's not radically different, but it's a bit different, and that's a shame. I'm gonna uh, try and match the colors and probably just lighten the color up a little bit. Because he's getting Bob's getting older too. Um, I liked the voice. They give you three masculine voices and three feminine voices, but allow you to pitch shift them a bit up or down. So I gave Leslie one of the feminine voices, one of the gruffer feminine voices, and pitch shifted it down a little bit, and I really like the sound of it. Bob has the palicos, if you want them speaking non-feline meows. Uh, I think there's only four. There's two feminine, two masculine, and even the masculine one is very high pitched and cartoony. And I always imagined Bob having. I mean, he's an adult feline now. I imagine Bob. I mean, he's still a small cat. He's gonna have probably a higher pitched voice than me. But I always imagine. But I didn't. I tried getting the gruffer sounding voice and pitching it down a bit, but it sounds too well artificially pitched down. So I was still playing with that a bit. I had to bump it up a little bit, and he's still a bit in the cartoony realm for my taste, but you know what's fine. So PSN's back up, so I can play with it a little bit more now. I don't know how much more hunting I'm going to do. Um, because this is again the old code, and it's not really representative of what the game looks like. A lot I don't want to get used to the way a weapon plays if it's gonna have some major changes. I might wander around and just kind of scope things out a bit, but for the most part, I'm fairly happy to just kind of wait until the game proper comes out. Although I'm not gonna buy it day one because I just want to read about how well it performs. It's like, is it like, does it have crashing problems? Does it stutter something fierce? Um, I ran the PC benchmark just out of curiosity, and at 4K it averages under 40 frames a second, which is not terrible for a computer that's 4 or 5 years old now. And but once you get in the village, the town, uh, ooh, man, frame rate tanked down to like 10 to 15 frames. Oh, that was rough. So if I were to play it on PC, I would definitely have to be playing it in like 1080, not running that sucker in 4K. At least not in the town. I mean, it's completely unplayable once you go back to the town. But very curious to see, to learn what happened with the PSN, because yeah, that's usually these things are down for maintenance for less than an hour. I mean, I think there was like an 8 hour outage like last fall sometime that was really concerning. I think there was another one like last spring that was 5 or 6 hours. So we'll see. Maybe, hopefully, I'm kind of glad that I don't store my credit card information on PSN or anything else. I actually, anytime I buy something online, I type in my credit card manually. Kind of glad I do that. It is a pain in the ass. I hate doing it, but kind of glad I do. All right. So what's next on the agenda here? Oh, my sister bought me a Mario and Luigi Dream Team for the 3DS, which is a console I haven't played in a few years. So I took it out of my old hardware gaming drawer. And realized that that thing was completely out of power. So I had to charge the 3DS because it had no power. I hadn't played it in a few years. So I played 4 some hours of Mario and Luigi Dream Team, and rough start. Rough start to the game. It feels like I'm at the point where it's starting to pick up and actually get interesting, but the first 3 hours at least, not good. I mean, it's visually charming. It's cute. Um, the problem I had with it is the platforming is uninspired and boring, which, you know, fine. I, A Thousand Year Door is a great game, and that didn't have good platforming. It didn't have much platforming in it, period. So I don't, need like a, full Super Mario Brothers levels of platforming. Kai, hello. Says I kind of felt the same for Partners in Time. It's kind of boring, and they keep repeating tutorials and mechanisms they already explained. I don't know. I'm trying to. I played Bowser's Inside Story and really liked it. I'm pretty sure I played one of the first two, and I don't remember if it was Superstar Saga or if it was Partners in Time. Or maybe I didn't play either of them. I'm just forgetting. I honestly no idea. Mohorta, hello. Said exact same opinion. Put down the game. Never picked it back up again. Um. So the problem I'd had with the game is the platforming is not there. Which fine, RPG, not a platforming game, but the levels that you wander around and explore are completely uninteresting, and the characters are flat and uninteresting. So you start in you go to a castle, right? And the opening areas are the outside garden that lead into the castle. Those areas are just really boring. There's just not a lot to see or do. I mean, the characters are, it's not visually unappealing, it's just not fun to explore because at this point in the game you have none of your um traversal items. You don't have your hammers, you don't have any of your special moves, right? So you're just kind of walking along a linear path and talking to characters who aren't saying anything particularly interesting. Um, However, the combat is fun. I've been enjoying the fights. Because the Paper Mario, or I'm sorry, the Mario and Luigi is still doing the thing, the active battle thing, where it's menu driven combat where you select fight or whatever out of a menu and you take turns, but you have to hit the buttons at the right time to get a better attack, and then you have to jump or hit with hammers once you get the hammers, like 3 hours into the game, when the enemies attack you. And they all have different attack patterns, and they all have different tells on which of the brothers they're going to attack, so you have to dodge with the right person with the right timing. I think the battles are actually have enough depth and visual charm to be really engaging and a lot of fun, but the rest of the game, the story, the characters, the exploration is just dull. Not bad, not like incompetent or anything, just dull. But about 4 hours in, where you pick up the hammers, and then you pick up your first special attack move thing. I forget what they're called, brother attacks or something like that. Um, and you start, and we're starting to get to the point where we're going to be able to equip new badges. And there's a system in the game where you equip the brothers with different badges, and different combination of badges have different special effects. And so that's going to be fun to play with, but you're playing a few hours with only one badge per bro. And it's like, so you don't really get to explore or experience that for a significant amount of time. But I'm now 4+ hours into the game, and it's just starting to open up the area with multiple paths to explore and different secrets to find, and different areas to go to. And it's like, oh, okay, now it's opening up and starting to get more engaging, more interesting. The battling has always been really quite solid. It's just the rest of the game was real flat and dull, but it's starting to pick up steam, and I hope that momentum continues. And if it does, we'll have a fun game with just a really slow start. I spied a couple reviews from, game came out 10 some years ago. Um, and looked at a couple of reviews, and everyone seemed to be pretty positive on it. But I did notice a bunch of people saying slow start, but it does build upon itself to become mechanically interesting. So I don't imagine the story is going to be really that interesting. It's you go on vacation, the princess gets kidnapped, and there's a bunch of islanders that got trapped into pillows, so you have to go save them all. It's really just an excuse to go on the adventure. It's fine. But having played Thousand Year Door, and to a lesser extent, but still solid, um uh Paper Mario and Mario RPG Legend of the Seven Stars, we know that for the RPG Mario games, the story can be not riveting or anything, but engaging, and the characters can be really fun and memorable. And so far, partner Dream Team doesn't have that at all, at all, and that's a shame. Uh, but so at the very least, it may end up being a mixed bag. I mean, it may end up being solid. At worst, it's probably just going to be a mixed bag. So, hmm. Kai says, "Have you played Super Paper Mario? One of my faves, and the levels are so lush, characters are great, and the merged platform RPG felt so refreshing." I did, and I quite liked Super Paper Mario. Um, some were down on it, and I suspect it was just not what they wanted in the follow up to Thousand Year Door, because it was radically different. Well, not radically, but it was distinct from the type of game that Paper Mario and Thousand Year Door were. It was, as you mentioned, a lot more platform focused. But I really did enjoy the overall arc of the story. The characters were fun, arguably a bit too verbose. Um, like it was overwritten, I would say. It like needed a little bit of editing. Like the dialogue was genuinely funny for the most part, but it just there were a lot of cases where it just went on too long. And if I'm remembering correctly, that was the one where there's one puzzle in the game where you have to like run in a hamster wheel to power something, but you have to do it for what feels like 10 solid minutes, to the point where you're thinking about like getting a paperweight just to rest it on the controller so you can go make a sandwich or something. um but yeah, overall I really quite liked Super Paper Mario. I thought all the Peach and Bowser interludes were hilarious and fun little palate cleansers. I really liked the 3D viewpoint swapping. I thought that led to some really interesting and clever uh, navigation experiences and puzzles. I did think there were a lot of fun, memorable characters. The story was charming enough to propel me through the adventure. It is quite a different game from Paper Mario and Thousand Year Door. So I could understand why someone going, "Ooh, follow up to Thousand Year Door," and going, "This isn't what I wanted." But for me, once I got over, okay, it's not what I expected, arguably not what I wanted, but let's level set and evaluate it for what it is. And once I did that, I really enjoyed the game on its own terms. Perfect game? No, but I like you, I did quite enjoy it and had a lot of fun with it. Kai says, "I honestly liked how much dialogue there was, but some jokes were dragged on too far. The slave section with the treadmill was excessive." Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. The treadmill. It's either a hamster wheel, a treadmill, or something where you have to run on something and it's literally just holding left or right or something for what feels like it's probably 1 minute or something like that, but it felt like 10 minutes. It felt like, do I need to go get some rubber bands and wrap them around the D-pad so I can do something else? But yeah, overall, I quite like the game. Says yes, the two viewpoint flips were so great. Yeah, I really quite enjoyed it. Um, I'll tell you one of the Paper Mario games that I played that I really just didn't like, that I thought was genuinely bad. Sticker Star. There's I was excited for that game because I'm like, wow, Nintendo's, say what you want about Nintendo, is they don't often just another one of these. They're like, ah, we could do another one, but why? What radically new thing could we do? It's like, just make another one. It's like, well, I mean, we could make another F-Zero, but we don't have any ideas other than just here's some new tracks. It's like, that's all we want. Just give us some new. You don't have to reinvent the damn wheel. Just more. You know, I mean, we love that you do. We love that that's your attitude, but you could just, I mean, I'd actually like it better if Nintendo was just like, look, we don't like F-Zero and we don't want to work on it. I'd be like, oh, well, okay, that's a bummer. Can't fault you there, you know. Um, but yeah, Sticker Star, I was initially quite looking forward to because I quite liked the previous three Paper Mario games, and I was like, ooh, stickers. That's paper stickers. That's a really good idea. Unfortunately, the game is bad in my stupendously humble opinion. Um, I'm trying to remember why it's bad. It's like mechanically it doesn't work well. Um, trying to think of what some of the major problems were. There was something about the way the game was mechanically set up where it behooved you to just not bother fighting anything because I think it was something like if you fought random grunts, you would lose your stickers and you would get money for beating the grunts, but then you could just buy more stickers with them and you didn't and you ended up, because there were use them and lose them stickers, you ended up just hoarding stickers, particularly because like the boss fights were set up so such that if you did not have the right sticker, you can't beat them. Like I think there's like a squid boss that spits ink, and if you don't have the sponge sticker to absorb all that ink, it might actually be an unwinnable boss fight. And there's little to no indication of what kind of stickers you use. So when I played the game, I was incentivized to just not fight things because there's no actual, if I'm remembering correctly, there's no actual like leveling up in the game. So there's no reason to fight anything because you just get stickers or money to buy stickers. And it's like, I may as well just not spend my stickers to fight the little guys anyway. Um, what am I gonna, and you're less inclined to actually experiment with some of the bigger stickers you get because you might need them for a boss fight. So yeah, that was a shame. I didn't like Sticker Star. There's a lot I liked about it, but yeah, I thought that one was a mechanical failure, which very uncommon thing for a Nintendo game, in my experience. So, uh, Kai says, you have great design takes. I watched your what is considered a game video, and I think you'd make for a great asset in the game industry. I'm a game designer myself. Oh, well, thank you. I worked really hard on that video, and it only got a couple hundred views, and that honestly kind of makes me sad, because I'm like, oh man, I put a lot of time and effort into that video, and I thought it was so fun, but that you know, YouTube in spring of 2017 decided no one shall watch your videos from this point on. Oh, well, that sucks. I mean, but luckily I have, you know, several dozen people who are aware of my channel and enjoy what I do, so that's good enough. So, yeah, Dream Team. I'm gonna keep playing that and hope that the 4 hour mark indication of it's really starting to open up and get interesting, that momentum continues. So this afternoon, let me see. Kai says, the way you described it is exactly how it was described in college, and you added even more to that concept. Oh, okay. Cool. Are you talking about the how to define video game? Yeah, that's something I'd been thinking about for some years, actually. Probably, I think I started really thinking about how would you actually define video game? Probably around like the game politics days. Because, a lot of times you'd run into, we used to have a conversation about are video games art? And then later the conversation would sometimes, as particularly indie game development became something more feasible for a broader range of developers, we started seeing a lot more boundary pushing when it came to mechanics and genre and stuff. And to the point where a lot of people would say, okay, it's an interesting experience, but is it a game though? Right? What is a video game? I mean, I like this thing or I don't like this thing, but it's not a video game. Don't know what it is. I don't know how to define game, but I know I want to see it. And it's just something I've had in the back of my mind, and I thought finally I'd sit down and actually try to do my best to define at least what I think of, to at least narrow down what is it that I consider a game. I mean, it's certainly not an official thing. It's I don't work for the dictionary, but yeah, I was pretty proud of it, and got a lot of really interesting feedback on that one. So yeah, glad you enjoyed it. When you described Minecraft created mode as not a game, that was mind blowing and sometimes a conversation piece with my friends. Oh, I'm glad you got something out of that. Glad to hear that. Thank you for saying so. So this afternoon I watched Sing, a animated film. Think what's the Minions Illumination. I think 2016. I think this film came out. Now I'm a big fan of animation. I love cartoons. I love animated. I love animated TV shows. I love animated movies. I love hand drawn, CG, stop motion. I love animation, and I love music. I particularly love musicals. But I skipped Sing when it came out the first time. And I skipped it for two main reasons. Number one, jukebox musical, and I got a thing about jukebox musicals. I don't like I got a thing. It's immature, it's not reasonable, it's just a sticking point. It's a me problem. I Jukebox musicals bug me usually. I just I it bothers me. I don't like it. Um Original music for the win, right? Um and jukebox musicals will often have like an original song or two, but uh yeah, so the other thing was I saw the trailer, and after or the marketing for the film, and after viewing the marketing for the film, I felt I had already seen the entire movie. So I'm like, I have no need to see the movie now. And it's a jukebox musical, patooey. Um, but again, I like animation, I like music. I'm like, I should see it at some point. There's probably something in the film that wasn't in the marketing. And yeah, the the big incident that closes out Act Two, I don't think was in any of the marketing, but pretty much everything else is. So yeah, the movie's fine. The movie's cute. It's charming. It's perfectly fine. The music's good, jukebox or not. It's got an absolute crap ton of uh, songs from a variety of styles and decades. Um, the movie's fine, but I yeah, I didn't really need to see it. Yeah, there were no surprises, but it's not really a matter of I saw the marketing, therefore I saw the movie. No, it's just a very by the numbers film, which is not necessarily a bad thing. Tropes are tropes for a reason, right? Uh, Templates are templates because they're proven and they work. You know, um, I don't think, even if I'd seen none of the marketing for this film, I bet after watching the first 25 minutes of the movie, I could have accurately plotted out every character's arc throughout the entire film and the ultimate plot. Not exactly how Act 2 ends with specifics, but generally the whole thing, it's just there's no surprises. If you've seen movies before, you're not going to be surprised by anything, but there are cute animal characters and they sing songs that you've probably heard of and like. So I wasn't bored. It's a fairly lengthy film. It's pushing close to 2 hours. I think it's like an hour and 50 minutes or something like that. It's longer than I thought it would be. Um, the needle drop film. Yeah. Um, what I found kind of interesting about the movie is it feels like a film that was originally a bit different of a film, and then they like kind of changed their mind halfway through. And what I mean here's the basic premise of the film if you're not aware. A young koala who's a big fan of musical theater uh, buys a classic musical theater venue and does everything he can to make it sing, but fails. Every single show he's produced at the venue has flopped, and he has no money. He can barely keep the lights on, can't pay anybody, but has a genuine passion for the performing arts. So his last ditch effort is to gather up all of the money he has, which is about $1,000, and do a singing contest because he's convinced that this would be a big hit. Maybe. I don't know. But his idea is it's just like anyone could be a wonderful singer. It could be this person walking down the street, or the person driving the bus, or the person who does your taxes, or the mom at home, right? Raising 25 little kids. Actually, a character in the film. So he's like, I'm going to put on a singing contest, and a bunch of people are going to audition, and then they'll sing their little hearts out, and the winner will get $1,000. That's the premise of the movie. Now, the inciting incident is they accidentally make a typo on the poster, and the reward is $100,000 instead of $1,000. So it draws a lot of attention, and he doesn't find out about it until late, and for some reason just doesn't say, oh, shoot, I'm sorry. That was a typo on the flyer that we just didn't notice. Guess we forgot to put the decimal point in. It's $1,000. It's not $100,000. We do not have that budget. So sorry. If you're only here because of the prize package, you're welcome to leave. This isn't legally binding or anything. No one signed a contract. Kind of embarrassing, sure. But of course, that's not what he does. He just keeps the ruse going and does everything he can to find a financial backer. So that's the general premise, right? There's this guy is putting on a singing contest with with the winner getting a money prize. There's your premise. Okay. Here's the weird thing. This is why I feel like there was originally kind of a different plot here. He holds auditions, and then he selects the acts he wants to be in a singing contest. Okay, So far, so good. That's generally how these things work in real life. Um, I've been a part of things like this. Like I was on America's Got Talent some years ago, so I've been in those kind of reality television singing. Well, it's not just singing, but those type of staged contests. I've been part of actual competitions, like you sing in barbershops. So I've done division, district, international competitions, that kind of a thing. Um, so I do have some insight to this. I'm not completely talking out of my ass. Oh, I'm talking out of my ass, but not completely. So so he picks the acts that he wants, but there's one duet, and instead of selecting the duet, he selects just one of them. He goes, "This duet," and they're like, "Yay!" And he goes, "No, not you, just her." It's like, what? That I want to say that's not how it works, but I mean, there's nothing stopping anyone from doing that. But I've never seen that. I've never heard of anything like that. Like, imagine if you were like you had like Penn and Teller or something. It's like, oh no, not you, just that one. What? We're an act. We're together. It's like there's a ventriloquist. It's like, oh, not you, just the dummy. You're not fun at all. I like the dummy. It's like, it's a complete package. You don't get one without the other, right? It's weird that he is like picking only part of an act. And what's further weird is once he selects the acts he wants on his singing competition, he then dictates what songs they sing, what outfits they wear, what instruments they play. It's like one auditions as a singer. He goes, "Oh yeah, you should play the piano too." It's like, I don't, or not since I was a kid. It's like, what are you doing? The one from the duet he breaks up. He's like, "Oh hey, you're gonna wear this colorful dress and you're gonna sing this teen pop song." It's like, what? What are you doing? And then the other lady who has the 25 kids, she auditions as a singer. He's like, "Okay, I'm gonna pair you with this dancer." What are you doing? What are you doing? And so everything falls apart as you'd expect at the end of Act Two. And in Act Three, our koala protagonist here is uh, in dire straits and depressed because everything fell apart, and now there's not going to be a show because it was exposed that he lied about the prize money. Also, an accident happened and the entire theater collapsed to the ground, so there's no venue to actually perform at anymore. And what's weird is the entire cast go to see him to make sure he's okay, which is weird. What this feels like is that originally it wasn't a song contest with prize money at the end. What it feels like is a bunch of people working together to put on a show. Like he was trying to produce his own show, and he was casting people who were performing artists to meet his vision, and they all collaborated to put on a show. That's what it feels like this was originally. Like that would make a lot more sense as when the whole thing falls apart, they all go and see if he's okay. They're not going to sue him. They're not mad at him. They're not like, oh, I was only in it for. I mean, there is one character who's there specifically for the money, and he doesn't go check on him. But the rest of them, there's no, oh, he lied to me, right? It's just, I don't know if this is true or not, but that's the feeling that I got when I watched the movie. It's just kind of weird. So, very simple film. It's kind of reminds me of another Illumination film, the Super Mario Brothers movie, in a way, in the sense that it's perhaps a bit too simple for its own good. Like there are a lot of individual elements that are like, ooh, oh, that's a really interesting idea. We should explore that. There's a lot of really fascinating uh potential for thematic relevance that we could mine out. Oh, you're not going to do any of that at all. It's just oh, it's just kind of background flavor. Oh, we're oh, well, okay, right. The Super Mario Brothers movie, like there was a lot of some really interesting dramatic stuff they could have mined with the by drawing parallels between Mario and Donkey Kong's relationships with their fathers, because they both have very similar arcs. And it's like there, but they don't really do anything with it. And it's like, but it's right it's right there. Why wouldn't you do something with it? That would make it better. I mean, I liked the Super Mario Brothers movie. It was entertaining, it was colorful, it was funny. I liked it just fine, but I'm like, there was some really interesting stuff you could have done here. And you just didn't. you know? Sing is kind of the same way. You have a like a the woman who is raising 25 kids. Um there's a lot, you know, this, you have a premise and you have some stuff you can infer based on just broad cultural awareness and the performance of the character itself, but none of it's actually explored. Even better example, the gorilla guy. His dad is part of a gang and he wants his son to be a member of the gang. And his son wants to be a singer and he keeps trying to live in both worlds. You know, he's trying to make his dad happy and be the getaway driver for his little bank robbing gang, and while also trying to do the whole rehearsal thing for the show. Also, very weird that another thing. It's very weird that the producer of a singing contest is working rehearsals with the talent. That's not what you do. You're. It's up to them to. It just doesn't. This is not a singing competition. No singing competition in the history of singing competitions, and I've been involved with them all, works like that. To my knowledge, anyway. That's just really weird. So anyway, the gorilla and his dad, right? So he doesn't show up for a job, and his dad gets nabbed by the police, and he goes, "I'm so sorry, I was somewhere else." You're like, "Where were you?" "I was singing. I want to be a singer." And his dad, "A singer? Harumph! Bah humbug!" And then won't talk to him. And then the son is all depressed, and then he sings the song at the show, and it goes great, but his dad's not there, and that hurts. But his dad saw it on the television in prison, and breaks out of prison to go hug his son and tell him that he saw the show and he liked it. I'm like, okay, that's fine. That's literally the bare minimum you could do here, but there's some interesting things you could do with this relationship. Why was the father against the son singing? Does he have just some innate distaste for musical theater? Nobody has an innate distaste for musical theater. Why, I've never heard of such a thing. Everyone loves musical theater. Like, imagine if, like, I don't know, what could you do? You could do something like, what would be more interesting than just nothing? Because the way it presents right now, it's like, oh, my son's actually good at singing, so now I like it, and that feels wrong. So maybe it's like something like the father lashed out in anger because he didn't think his son was serious. You know, he doesn't take music seriously, so he just kind of projected that his son isn't taking music seriously. It's just an excuse his son is using because he just really doesn't want to hang out with his dad and his dad's friends. Oh, how embarrassing. and it just really hurt him because his dad thought that the dad thought that the son was lying and just didn't want to hang out with him, and that just really personally hurt him. And he lashed out and acted out in anger, yes, but that's why. So when he's in prison and he sees his son on the telly and sees him singing, he's like, oh shit, he really does sing. Oh damn. Oh, the pooch, 'twas screwed, and it's all my fault. I gotta go out there and tell my son that I don't hate him, and I don't think music is stupid. I thought he just didn't want to hang out with me, and I was hurt. And, something, anything is better than nothing. There's every character has the most basic arc, which is what makes it so predictable. Again, predictable as it is, the movie is charming. It's cute. It's fine. But everything's just so obvious because they don't really do anything beyond the basic, most surface level plot point to conclusion, right? And that's a missed opportunity, in my humble opinion. I don't think I always feel that making things better makes them better. Making things more thematically relevant or interesting makes them better. Even if even if some portion of the audience doesn't pick up on those themes, I still think it can make for a much more interesting, richer experience. Hell, movies I've revisited as an adult that I saw when I was a young, very dumb child. I was like, oh, hey, this is a much richer, much more interesting, much more fulfilling experience now that I'm an adult and can actually pick up on things like, theme. When I was 8, I wasn't really interested in theme. I was a pretty surface level little child, like most childrens. I see an explosion, I go, ooh, explosion. I see people, punching and kicking each other in the face or shooting each other and more explosions, or maybe there's a puppy or something. It's like, just all the surface level tangible details. That's what I ate up when I was in the single digit ages. But, as I matured and saw more and more movies and musical theater and read more books and had more life experiences, I came to recognize and understand and appreciate some of the subtleties of performing arts and storytelling. So even if you have a cartoon that's aimed at young kids, I think it behooves you to make it as good as you possibly can. If you've got the opportunity to, if you spot something like, hey, you know what? It's really interesting. Donkey Kong and Mario both have kind of the same issues with their dad. They both desperately want to please their father, their individual fathers, but the way they go about it is not what their fathers are expecting. There's something there. We could mine that. There's some really interesting dramatic stuff we could mine from that. And they just decided not to. It's like, I don't think any younger audience member would have been bothered by any of that. Like, I feel that creatives need to trust younger audiences a bit more. Yeah, they're probably not going to pick up on it, at least not now. But, if they love all the surface level tangible details, it's a movie that's going to stick in their head for probably a long time. They might think about it, and then might think about it in different ways and revisit it and have an even deeper appreciation for it in their later years. Of course, I've also gone back to movies I enjoyed as a kid and go, oh man, this sucks. So you never know. Singing Monkey, what game am I talking about? Oh, hello, Chicago. No, I'm talking about Sing, the film. The animated film from the Illumination Studio from nearly a decade ago. I think it was 2016, something like that. So, predictable. Seems to have started with a different story and kind of inelegantly papered it over with a new one. It's a jukebox musical, patooey. But it's cute, it's colorful, it's got a great variety of music. It's fine, it's cute, it's fine. It's okay. Is anything I'm ever going to revisit? No. I am curious about the sequel. The sequel is another one that I've seen the trailer for, and I feel like I could predict every single plot point in the entire film because they seem to have shown all of them in the trailer. But, you know, I'm sure it's cute. So, that's all for me tonight. Hope you all have a good evening. Return tomorrow if you like. We're returning to Trails of Cold Steel. So we'll be playing more of that tomorrow at noon Pacific Standard Time. So join me for that if you like. And until then, have a great evening and hope to see you tomorrow. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.